Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Self Love Club. I hope you're having a phenomenal day. Maybe it's Sunday for you. If it is, thank you for listening the day that this episode comes out. And if it's not, don't worry. I'm so glad that I got to fit into your week at some point. And as you know, it's a new month. We are in our second week of June. So we have our whole new intention we're exploring this month. I chatted a little bit about this last week and the importance of this intention because it's something that I personally have been learning about, I would say, my whole adult life, but definitely something that I'm leaning into a little bit more the past couple months. So, our intention for June is to speak up. I know that sounds pretty straightforward, probably something you already know how to do, but as I've been researching this and sort of dissecting it and looking at it, it's pretty obvious that it's easy to feel overwhelmed, uncomfortable, and even resistance when you want to speak up, but you're not really sure what to say, and you oftentimes just don't end up saying what you want to say. So, what we're really working on this month, and something that I just really want to focus on, is finding our own confidence and empowering ourselves to speak up in situations when we need to make sure that we are respecting ourselves, but also creating an environment for mutual respect within those relationships that we are involved in. So this week, I'm really focusing on advocating for ourselves. I'm sure you've heard the word advocating before. It's not an uncommon concept, but it is something that really is important when it comes to speaking up. So obviously, in the face of adversity, it's pretty easy to feel sticky, uncomfortable, and your natural response may be to, how do I get out of this situation as fast as possible? How do I move on, put this beside, move it to the side and ignore it? But I really want us to lean in to dealing with adversity and being able to really focus on advocating for ourselves. So speaking up for yourself in these situations is actually self advocacy, which is something that we all need, something that maybe we don't all practice, but something that is very vital into our personal growth, understanding ourselves, and really being true to who we are. I know last week we really talked about our inner voice, which I think is such a huge component to speaking up. We really need to know what we want to say, how we're feeling, being really in tune with ourselves, which I think is something that in this busy world that we live in, it's so easy to basically ignore yourself and ignore that inner voice because you're just moving through the things you have to do each day, the expectations that maybe society has put on you, or even you've put on yourself as you're trying to navigate your day to day life. So, self advocacy is really about finding your confidence, harnessing that, empowering and embracing yourself to be able to speak up in these situations. So I'm sure you've been in a heated conversation, maybe a debate, whether that was with a friend, someone you just met. I know I've been in a few of those. I would have to say that they all somehow relate back to sports. And again, if you know me, you know that I'm very passionate about sports. So I've been in situations where we've all been watching a basketball game and I've gotten into maybe a verbal disagreement with someone else regarding a basketball team or player. And it can often feel heated and unnecessarily stressful, especially when your two perspectives aren't aligning. But I think what happens for a lot of people, and I know I've done this for myself, is it feels easier to just kind of take a step back and agree with the other person who is speaking their mind maybe a little bit louder or enforcing their point a little bit louder. And this is obviously such a simple explanation or situation of what this could be, instead of obviously as deep as a relationship and an argument where you really have to be true to yourself and what your needs are. But it still relates. And I've been in those situations when I've been talking about sports and I've maybe just kind of stayed silent or decided to not get into this conversation and not make my point. And then later on, I've looked back and I thought, why didn't I have the confidence to just state my point that I had? It's something that I believed in. It was a perspective that I own and that I want to make sure that I'm stating and sharing my own personal beliefs. And it's okay if we disagree. I think that's another thing, is it's okay in these heated conversations to have the resolution of we disagree. But it's still just as important to be able to speak up for yourself and not just kind of go with what the other person is saying and minimize your own thoughts and perspective. So that is really what we're trying to focus on, is how we can do that this week by self-advocating for ourselves in these different situations. So by speaking up, you communicate your value to others and establish a foundation of respect. And I think that's something that is so often overlooked in relationships, is we often look at others to define our value to ourselves. We don't necessarily understand our own value or hold our own value and then communicate it to others. We wait for them to assign value to us based on our relationship, based on how we feel they perceive us, when in reality, we do know our own value. It's like finding that inner voice. You need to be able to find your truth, your honesty in who you are, and know your value so that you can bring it forward into relationships. So by speaking up, we are building self-advocacy. So this is obviously one of the most fundamental aspects of speaking up for yourself, is self-advocacy. It involves recognizing your worth, again, slowing down and really making sure that you know your worth and you're able to stand true to it, acknowledging your rights and advocating for your own needs. This is huge because it's not just something that you're advocating of, well, I like it this way, or this is how I want something. This is a need. This is not always a want, and it's something you need to be hard and clear on. And that's what advocacy is you really need to make sure that you're drawing that line in the sand and you're saying, no, this is the line and I'm not crossing this. This is the boundary and you can't cross my boundary. So whether you're expressing your opinion during that heated conversation or asserting your boundaries, again, we love boundaries, when they're crossed, self-advocacy empowers you to protect your well-being and maintain your authenticity. And I know that's a word we've heard a lot of because of social media, but your authenticity really is your true self. So you're maintaining who you are at your core, and you're not afraid to hide that or minimize it when you are advocating for yourself. By speaking up, you communicate your value to others. And like I said, create that foundation of respect, which is so important in any healthy relationship. Another thing that speaking up does is it builds your assertiveness skills. Have you ever heard the term assertiveness or being assertive? I used to think it was a bit of an aggressive term, almost like there was a negative connotation with being assertive. But as I've looked into it, I realized being assertive is actually just being strong and empowered in your wants and knowing what's right for you and not being afraid to speak up for that. And that is so cool and also so powerful to be able to be connected to that within yourself and to be able to bring that forward. So assertiveness is obviously a crucial skill in speaking up effectively. It allows you to express your thoughts, your feelings, and your desires in a clear and respectful manner while you are considering perspectives of others. I think that's such a huge thing too, is being assertive isn't just about you. It is about making sure that you're bringing forward what you need for your safety, your boundaries, but you're also creating space for whoever you're in conversation with and relationship with to do the same thing. It has to be a two-way street. So by mastering assertiveness, yes, we will eventually master it, but let's just focus on working on assertiveness. By engaging and empowering yourself to be assertive, you can effectively communicate your needs without compromising your own well-being or infringing upon the rights of others. Practicing assertiveness can boost your self-esteem, strengthen your relationships, and create an environment of open communication. Again, I love this, boosting your self-esteem. I know we've talked about this before in some of our other intentions, is a lot of times when we are going through a hard season in life, our self-esteem and confidence definitely suffers. And I know I've been there where I've lost my ability to feel confident in who I am and my natural skills. And so being able to practice different things that, the main goal isn't building my self-esteem, but they will benefit my self-esteem is so important. So by actively speaking up, being assertive, your self-esteem is going to boost. And it's going to be such a great aspect of learning more about yourself, is trusting yourself and also having that confidence in yourself to keep going forward and being true to who you are. Another big thing about speaking up that I love is overcoming fear and overthinking. I would say I'm a queen of overthinking. My mind is running too fast, way too fast for me to even keep up with. And I often play out scenarios before anything even happens. I already determine the outcomes that could possibly happen. And a lot of times once I do that, I realize, ooh, maybe I don't want to actually participate in this. I don't want to actually speak up because I don't want that to be the outcome. I don't want to feel this type of uncomfort. And so then I minimize myself and kind of shrink away from the situation. And that is giving into fear. And we are not about that here. We are really working on overcoming our fear, finding our confidence, and facing our fear. So fear and overthinking hinder our ability to speak up. I think that's pretty obvious. We may worry about potential consequences, rejection, or negative judgments from others. However, it's important to remember that our voice matters. Your voice matters, and our thoughts and feelings are valid. That is so powerful to just sit and think about. Your voice matters, not just your thoughts and just your inner monologue and your inner voice. Your voice in a situation matters, and your thoughts and feelings are valid. That is so powerful to just sit and hold on to that and remind yourself when you want to shrink away from a situation, you want to walk away because you're uncomfortable, just remind yourself, my voice matters, my thoughts and feelings are valid. And when you hold on to that, you know that it is safe and it is powerful to be able to speak up for yourself. Recognize that discomfort and fear are natural emotions, but they shouldn't hold you back from expressing yourself. By challenging your fears, you focus on positive outcomes of speaking up, and you gradually step out of your comfort zone. I know this is one thing that we've probably all heard is growth comes when you're uncomfortable. I always go back to being a teenager, or I guess a preteen, when you were going through your like growing season of life, like your physical growth spurt. And I remember my knees and my legs hurt so much when I was growing, which now that I think about it is strange because I'm really not tall at all. So I don't know how much growing I was doing. But physically, there's pain in growing. Your legs, your muscles, everything hurts when you're growing because you're getting to the next season, you're getting to the next chapter and the next size. And that discomfort brings you forward into the next chapter. And growth only comes from being in an uncomfortable situation. You cannot grow when you are comfortable and you aren't challenging yourself. So it is so important to remember that growth lies on the other side of fear. That might be something that you can write down on a sticky note and put it on your mirror, maybe on your computer, or even write the text and put it on the background of your phone, because it's such an important and powerful thing to remember is that growth does lie on the other side of fear. And if this is something that rings, true to you, that you have allowed fear to maybe control you more than you'd like, fixate on this and hold on to this and use this little manifestation and power to encourage yourself to face those things that maybe you've been afraid of doing before and to actually use your voice and speak up. Another great thing about speaking up is setting healthy boundaries. And I know for those of you who have been following the Self-Love Club, we discussed boundaries. I think it was back in, it must have been March now, which feels like so long ago. So we really looked into boundaries back then and the importance of boundaries, how to implement them, and why we need them for both people and both parties in a relationship. But boundaries are so key when it comes to speaking up because it's setting and maintaining healthy boundaries. Your boundaries act as guidelines and they define acceptable behavior. They protect your emotional and physical well-being. I think that is so important, is understanding that boundaries aren't just a physical sense. It also protects your emotional place in life and how you feel emotionally in that relationship, in that situation, and within yourself. By communicating your boundaries clearly and firmly, you establish expectations for others and foster an environment of mutual respect. This is such a big thing, again, is the mutual respect and that aspect of having respect for not only yourself, but others in the situation, whether it is a platonic, romantic, or even workplace relationship. You need to both have respect for each other and create a space and foster an environment that allows that. So remember that setting your boundaries is not selfish. We talked about this. And if boundaries feel very sticky for you, I highly recommend going back to our intentions in March of this year and listening to those episodes, reading those blog posts, and just learning a little bit more about boundaries, because it is not about being selfish. It's actually an act of self-care that ensures your needs are met and your relationships will thrive. Another great thing about speaking up is you're fostering personal growth. I know if you're listening to this podcast, you probably already are in tune with wanting to have a bit more personal growth and you're trying to connect with yourself on a deeper level, feel more power within yourself and what you're going through, and have a bit more advocacy, obviously, for your needs and your desires, but also to see yourself grow and become the person you've always wanted to be. So, obviously, speaking up for yourself in difficult situations is a catalyst for personal growth. It challenges you to confront your fears. I know we talked about that. Step into your power, because we all hold that power within ourselves, and embrace your authentic self. Through self-expression, you gain a deeper understanding of your values, beliefs, and desires. I know this is another thing I've talked about, is the desires. Your inner voice knows your desires. And we really need to listen to our desires, because there's so much power in knowing what our heart really wants out of relationships, out of life, out of our personal relationship with ourselves. And our desires should always be acknowledged and respected in a way that we're trying to fulfill those desires. So you cultivate resilience, assertiveness, and confidence, which transcend beyond a specific situation. So when you're able to speak up for yourself in a platonic friendship, that confidence and that assertiveness that you've practiced in that platonic relationship is going to benefit you when you may be speaking up with a boss or a coworker in another uncomfortable situation. It's that old saying, practice makes perfect. So the more you do it, the more natural speaking up feels, and the less fear and overthinking is going to hold you back. You're actually going to know, you know what, when I speak up, I get to that next level and I feel confident in myself and what I can do. And it's benefited healthy relationships. And I've also seen so much personal growth within myself. So each time you speak up, you become stronger, wiser, and more empowered. And let's be honest, all those things are great, great adjectives that we definitely want to be able to, at least I want to be able to align with myself and realize that I have all those skills. So looking back at all the different reasons why speaking up is so necessary, it's because it's an essential skill for personal development and creating healthy relationships. It enables you to advocate for your needs, assert your boundaries, and cultivate self-respect. Overcoming fear and practicing assertiveness are key components of finding your voice. Remember, this is a big one, your thoughts and your feelings matter. And by speaking up, you pave the way for personal growth, authenticity, and meaningful connections. Embrace the power of your voice and let it guide you towards a more empowered and fulfilling life. That's definitely something I've been working on and I'm way more in tune with this past year. Is I want to have an empowered and fulfilling life. And that's going to look different to all of us. But the only way we're going to get there is by speaking up for what we want, speaking up for our boundaries, protecting ourselves, creating and fostering healthy relationships. Having trust and respect in those relationships is so important. So this week, I hope you really can break down maybe some sticky situations you've been in, some conversations you've had, and realize how speaking up in those situations and practicing these different aspects of speaking up will benefit you in creating a fulfilling life that you are in love with, because we have this one life and we should truly love every single day of it. So I hope you have an amazing day, and remember to love yourself first.